Vancouver, the picturesque coastal city known for its stunning views, bustling real estate market, and vibrant lifestyle, is facing a looming crisis that could irreversibly alter its future. The very foundation of this city, its water system, has reached a breaking point. A catastrophic failure of its aging infrastructure is not only threatening the health and safety of its citizens, but is poised to send shockwaves through the local real estate market, potentially wiping out billions of dollars in property value. In what seems like a city on the verge of collapse, the ramifications of this impending disaster go far beyond the immediate failure of pipes and treatment plants. The consequences for Vancouver's housing market are profound, with some experts estimating that over $10 billion in property value could vanish overnight, creating a ripple effect that could destabilize the entire economy. The water system, once the pride of Vancouver, has been steadily deteriorating for years. Despite warnings from officials and experts alike, critical repairs have been delayed, leaving the city vulnerable to failure. Vancouver's water infrastructure has a repair backlog that exceeds $2.5 billion, a sum that the city has struggled to address due to a lack of funding, bureaucracy, and political infighting. In 2023, a report from the City of Vancouver's own engineers outlined the urgent need for repairs to key pipes, treatment plants, and other vital components of the system. Yet little progress has been made. The situation is only worsening as parts of the system fail more frequently, with localized flooding and contamination risks becoming more common. The city's residents are already facing warnings about potential water shortages, while the threat of widespread flooding looms large, especially in lower-lying areas. But what does this mean for the real estate market? The answer is grim. Vancouver's housing market, which was already grappling with skyrocketing prices, unaffordable rents, and a lack of supply, is now on the brink of a catastrophic downturn. The city's property values, which had once been immune to even the most drastic of economic shifts, are now at risk of plummeting as the water crisis deepens. Vancouver's real estate bubble, which many experts had already warned was on the verge of bursting, is now facing an external crisis that could accelerate its collapse. In the aftermath of the water system failure, the consequences for homeowners and developers will be devastating. Those who invested their savings in Vancouver's real estate market could see their properties lose up to 20% or more of their value overnight. In some areas, the loss could be even greater. Developers who have long viewed Vancouver as a prime location for investment are now facing the prospect of halted projects, escalating costs, and delays that will stretch years into the future. Many are already on the brink of bankruptcy, with construction companies, subcontractors, and even banks feeling the strain. With the water system in crisis, the construction of new homes, condos, and office buildings is no longer a sure bet. The very lifeblood of Vancouver's development industry is being choked off by an aging and failing water infrastructure. But the financial damage doesn't stop there. The housing market is intimately tied to the financial sector, and the effects of a water system collapse are already being felt in the mortgage and banking sectors. Homeowners, particularly those with variable rate mortgages, are already grappling with the dual threat of rising mortgage rates and declining property values. As property values begin to fall, many will find themselves owing more on their mortgages than their homes are worth, a scenario known as being underwater. This is already happening in certain neighborhoods where the value of homes has dropped by as much as 15% over the past year. For banks and lenders, the collapse of property values is a nightmare scenario. Mortgage-backed securities, which were once considered a safe investment, are now at risk of losing value, creating a ripple effect that could affect the entire financial system. The economic damage caused by the water crisis could be far-reaching, with businesses, investors, and homeowners all feeling the pain. This is especially concerning when you consider that Vancouver has one of the most expensive real estate markets in the world, with average home prices surpassing $1 million in many neighborhoods. The sudden loss of value in this market could create a financial shockwave that ripples through the broader Canadian economy, affecting everything from job growth to consumer spending. But the true human cost of this crisis is yet to be fully realized. While the financial implications are grave, it is the people of Vancouver who will bear the brunt of this catastrophe. Many homeowners, already struggling with the high cost of living in Vancouver, will be forced to watch their dreams of home ownership unravel before their eyes. Some will lose their homes entirely, unable to afford the rising costs of repairs, insurance, or mortgages. Others will be left with homes that are devalued to the point where selling is no longer an option. For renters, the situation is no better. With the housing market in chaos, rent prices will continue to rise, making it even harder for those already living paycheck to paycheck to find affordable housing. Health and safety concerns will also increase as the water system continues to fail. Contaminated water is a very real risk, with parts of Vancouver already experiencing water quality issues. The cost of cleaning up the water system will only add to the financial burden, and many residents are already being forced to rely on bottled water or other temporary solutions. As the crisis deepens, the mental and emotional toll on Vancouver's residents will grow. People who have worked hard to build a life in one of Canada's most beautiful cities are now watching as that life unravels, with no end in sight. For developers, the immediate fallout from the water crisis will be severe. Many of them are already facing delays and cost overruns as construction projects are stalled by the water system's failures. Others are grappling with lawsuits and insurance claims due to water damage and flooding in newly constructed homes and buildings. As these companies face mounting losses, some will be forced to file for bankruptcy, leaving investors, contractors, and employees in the lurch. Vancouver's once booming construction industry, which had been one of the city's strongest economic drivers, is now facing a collapse of its own. It's not just the real estate market that's at risk. The water system failure will have a far-reaching impact on the city's economy. Vancouver is home to thousands of businesses, from small mom-and-pop shops to large international corporations. Many of these businesses rely on a stable and reliable water system to operate, from restaurants to manufacturers to tech companies. As the water crisis deepens, these businesses will be forced to cut costs, delay expansion plans, and, in some cases, close their doors entirely. Job losses are expected to rise sharply in the coming months, especially in industries that rely on construction, real estate, and water-intensive processes. With the city's infrastructure in disarray, the broader implications for Vancouver's economy are staggering. Without a functioning water system, Vancouver's competitiveness as a global city will be severely hampered. Investors, both domestic and international, may start to pull their capital out of the city, fearing further instability. The global reputation of Vancouver, once a symbol of progress and prosperity, could be irreparably damaged. This is a wake-up call for the city's leaders who have been slow to address the growing crisis. The next few months are critical for Vancouver. The window for action is closing, and unless immediate steps are taken to repair the city's failing water infrastructure, the consequences will be catastrophic. What happens next could define the future of the city for generations to come. Will Vancouver rise to the challenge and address this crisis head-on, or will it be too late to avoid the fallout? The crisis that Vancouver is currently facing isn't just about the potential collapse of an aging water system. It's the perfect storm that could collapse the city's housing market, devastate the livelihoods of its residents, and destroy the economic fabric of the region. The implications of Vancouver's water system failure are profound, not only for the people who live in the city, but for those who have invested heavily in real estate, as well as the broader economy of British Columbia. As the water system continues to deteriorate, there's a very real possibility that the city could experience a catastrophic shift that sends shockwaves throughout the entire province and beyond. While Vancouver is known for its breathtaking views and booming real estate market, the cracks in the city's infrastructure are beginning to show. Home to some of Canada's most expensive real estate, Vancouver has long been a target for both local and international investors. The market has been characterized by soaring home prices, bidding wars, and luxury developments. However, the tide is beginning to turn. With the collapse of the water system, developers, investors, and home buyers are now facing the grim reality of a market that could soon be in freefall. The financial impact on homeowners is already evident. As the water system continues to fail, many homeowners are beginning to notice the first signs of property devaluation. Homes in certain areas, particularly those that are in close proximity to the water system's most vulnerable points, are seeing value drops of 10 to 20%, a staggering loss for families who have already stretched their finances to own a home in Vancouver. Even more concerning is the future outlook. If the water system continues to deteriorate without significant repairs or updates, property values could continue to plummet, potentially losing billions in value across the city. For those in the market to buy or sell, the timing couldn't be worse. Buyers, hesitant about the future of Vancouver's real estate market, are becoming more cautious. Mortgage applications are declining as people worry about the stability of property values and the impact of the water crisis on their investments. At the same time, sellers are struggling to get the prices they expected for their homes, with many forced to lower their asking prices. The once vibrant housing market is now a battlefield, where only the most well-informed and well-prepared investors and homeowners will be able to weather the storm. What's even more alarming is the effect this is having on new construction projects. Developers who once viewed Vancouver as a goldmine for new builds are now rethinking their plans. Construction projects are being delayed indefinitely, with some developers putting their projects on hold altogether. Others are facing bankruptcy as the rising costs of materials, labor, and insurance, combined with the uncertain state of the housing market, make their ventures increasingly unprofitable. For the city's construction workers, this has meant layoffs and job uncertainty. As one of the largest sectors of Vancouver's economy, construction has been hit hard by this crisis, and it's unclear how long the industry will take to recover, if it recovers at all. The impact of the water system collapse is not limited to real estate. Businesses throughout Vancouver are also feeling the effects. Restaurants, hotels, office buildings, and retail outlets are all dealing with the ripple effects of a failing infrastructure. For these businesses, the collapse of the water system has meant more than just higher operating costs. It has meant delays in construction projects, higher insurance premiums, and the constant threat of water-related damage. Many of these businesses rely on the city's water supply to operate, whether it's for sanitation, cooling systems, or even just daily operations. As the water crisis worsens, these businesses are being forced to rethink their future in Vancouver. In addition to the immediate financial losses, there are the long-term consequences. If the city's water system continues to deteriorate, the broader infrastructure in Vancouver could also begin to crumble. Public services, transportation, and utilities all rely on the water system to function. Should the water system fail completely, it could lead to a collapse of basic services throughout the city. This scenario is particularly concerning for Vancouver's lower income and marginalized communities, who are already facing challenges with affordable housing, healthcare, and access to education. For these communities, the failure of the water system could mean more than just economic hardship. It could represent a fundamental breakdown in the social contract between the city's residents and the local government. But perhaps the most concerning aspect of this crisis is the lack of urgency from the city's leadership. Despite numerous warnings from engineers, urban planners, and infrastructure experts, little has been done to address the mounting issues with Vancouver's water system. Local politicians have been slow to act, with some even downplaying the severity of the situation. This has led to widespread frustration among residents, who feel that their government has failed them. In response, there have been calls for more drastic action, including federal intervention and the allocation of emergency funds to address the water system collapse. However, political gridlock and differing priorities have made it difficult to move forward. As the situation worsens, there is growing concern that Vancouver's water crisis will spill over into other areas of the economy. With the housing market already struggling, the ripple effects of a widespread water system collapse could lead to a broader economic downturn. Small businesses may be forced to close their doors, unemployment could rise, and the city's economy could enter a prolonged recession. For those who have invested their life savings in Vancouver's real estate market, the collapse of property values could represent a devastating financial blow. The potential for widespread financial ruin is all too real. What makes this situation even more troubling is that it is not an isolated problem. Vancouver is not the only city in Canada dealing with infrastructure issues. Across the country, aging water systems and outdated infrastructure are becoming increasingly common. As other cities in Canada begin to face similar challenges, there's a growing fear that Vancouver's crisis could be a precursor to a larger national crisis. If these infrastructure problems are not addressed soon, it could trigger a chain reaction that affects communities, HRs, industries, and economies across Canada. Despite these challenges, there is still hope. Vancouver has the opportunity to act quickly and decisively to address the water crisis before it escalates further. The city's leadership must prioritize the repair and modernization of the water system, allocate the necessary resources, and work with experts to find long-term solutions. But time is running out. The longer the city delays, the more likely it is that Vancouver's housing market will suffer irreversible damage, and the economy will continue to spiral downward. For homeowners, developers, and businesses, the coming months will be crucial. The crisis is far from over, and the full extent of the damage is yet to be seen. But for anyone invested in Vancouver's future, the writing is on the wall. The city's survival depends on its ability to act swiftly, address its infrastructure issues, and recover from this looming crisis before it's too late. If you're living in Vancouver, or if you've been following the unfolding crisis, this is the time to stay informed and stay prepared. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel to keep up with the latest updates on the water crisis, the housing market, and what steps you can take to protect yourself from the fallout. The situation is dire, and it's up to all of us to stay vigilant and ready for what's coming next. Leave a comment with 1 to show that you're staying informed, and don't forget to follow the channel for more critical updates on the crisis unfolding in Vancouver.